a revised energy price cap. That's due to come in this afternoon, announced by Ofgem. This draws into sharp focus our energy security here in the UK. Despite a new Department for Energy Security, our energy has potentially never looked less secure. Of course, last year Rishi Sunak tore up Liz Truss's plans to deliver more homegrown shale gas energy onshore in the UK. And the SNP has been tearing its hair out over the prospect of more oil and gas licences in the North Sea. But turning to renewables, across the last 3 years, just 2 wind turbines have been built in the UK. Not 2 wind farms, 2 individual turbines, both, as it happens, on the Keele University campus. Now, all parties have been involved in blocking more energy being delivered in the UK. Labour fought tooth and nail to keep that ban on shale gas extraction, and the Wet Tories followed in their footsteps. And for their part, the Tories effectively banned onshore wind power. Meanwhile, the Lib Dems have been campaigning against nuclear power, and new reactors are banned by the Scottish government. Of course, the Green Party opposes oil, gas, fracking, nuclear power, and solar farms too. Yes, solar farms. It's remarkable to look at the record of elected Green Party representatives when it comes to proposed renewable developments. Take Longfield Solar Farm. Quote, "This scheme is too large, and I'm concerned about the impact on the valued landscape." That's from Green Party councillor James Abbott. That's what he thinks those proposals at Longfield, they're too big. Or take the Alfreton Solar Farm in Derbyshire. Now, as a Green Party candidate, you might expect me to be in favour of such a project, says Councillor Frank Addington Stringer, a Green, of course. However, I have a number of concerns which mean I cannot support this particular scheme. Now, again, he thinks that is too big. Or how about down in Hastings? Quote, "Obviously the Green Party is in favour of increasing the supply of renewable energy. However, it has to be in the right place. And this is very far from the right place. It feels like tokenism. The council slapping a solar farm in the country park and then claiming to be acting on the climate crisis." Yes, Julia Hilton, the Green Party councillor on Hastings, says that she thinks that potential solar farm is tokenistic. In other words, too small. Some Greens opposing solar farms for being too big, others for being too small. Is there anywhere that we could put a solar farm in the UK? Of course, it's fascinating to see across all of these different areas, whether it's fracking, whether it's oil and gas, whether it's new nuclear, whether it's indeed solar or wind, there's opposition everywhere. Why is that? Well, I'm delighted to be joined now by Dr. Lawrence Newport of Royal Holloway University of London, who's a YouTuber, and his recent vlog details how England has accidentally made lots of green technology practically illegal. Thank you for joining me this
Thank you very much for having me.
It's fascinating to look through. Most people would instinctively think that perhaps the Green Party, whilst it's obvious that they might not want to extract natural gas, surely they'd be in favour of solar. But it's not the case.
Well, that's exactly what I found the most shocking thing about researching the video. I thought I'd look at the government maybe has banned, I saw they banned, essentially banned wind farms, and solar panels seem to be very difficult to build. There's legislative reasons why that's the case, but what really struck me was how time and time again, you had 3 of the good examples here that were also in my video as well, because they really stunned me. There's the same pattern over and over again, which is, of course, I'm very concerned about climate change. In fact, it's one of the worst things that could possibly happen. The world might end, these kind of things. And the next sentence is, however, though maybe we could build a solar park. Of course we should build a solar farm. Just not anywhere near me, which was just time and time again. And the video wasn't meant to be about that. It just ended up coming out of it because that's all I kept finding time and time again.
And it's fascinating looking at that video. We had time to show 3 examples here today, but there are so many more. It's almost anywhere in England, whether it's a place that's seen as too large, too big, too rural, too urban. Just about anywhere that you can. I think at one point you found, was it a scrapyard, a wastage
an old
site?
landfill, which they refused, planning on the basis that it didn't meet the biodiversity requirements.
Biodiversity for a landfill.
Yes.
I mean, this it's getting to the point of farcical.
Yeah.
And we're talking in a context today where people are worried about their energy bills, where prices are set to be going up in the coming months, and yet politicians seem to prioritise blocking development of new homegrown sources of energy rather than delivering the kind of things that would actually make people's lives easier.
And they're cheaper. You know, wind power is so much cheaper, and solar farms are getting more and more efficient and better pretty much every 6 months. So technology is advancing incredibly quickly. We were leading in a bunch of these areas, but because it's so difficult to build here, we're losing the companies abroad. So we're losing innovation, we're losing the companies, we're losing the expertise. We're also, unfortunately, as you say, making it so difficult to predict. If you're a company, why invest in Britain when surely I can build it on a landfill, and you still can't build there. You can't build near a town if it has historic buildings. You can't build near a town if it doesn't, because it might ruin the view. You can't build it if it's big, if it's small, if it's medium. No one seems to know quite what you're meant to build or what you're meant to predict you'll be allowed to do, which, if you're a company, how do we argue that they should invest in us when they could go pretty much most other places and it's much easier?
And it's crucial to emphasise in this conversation that whilst when we were talking about renewable projects of decades past that involved significant taxpayer funding, these projects are about private investment, about companies using their own money to invest in the United Kingdom to create extra energy and more jobs. And the government, in all of its different forms, mostly local government, but many different forms as well, has been simply getting in the way, stopping this investment, stopping this growth, frankly. Are we subject to the whims of an anti-growth coalition?
I think 100%. Well, because how else do you describe this? It's been years of the same kind of legislation, and then at a local level, not local people, often solar farms are quite popular locally, and in fact wind farms are quite popular locally. But if you allow political groups locally to have their own choices, they nearly always oppose. Not in principle. In principle, everyone's on side. The way that I put it in the video is, in Britain, everyone supports you on solar farms, so long as it's not near them, near where they work, near where they might live, or near anywhere they ever drive through or know exists. And that's a problem. If your political class thinks in that way, that is genuinely not going to allow your country to grow, and it's not going to allow you to innovate and really take the expertise of Britain and build good industries that we were leading the world in. And we've allowed that to slip through our fingertips.
What do you say to the people that say that the United Kingdom isn't the biggest country in the world? It used to be the world's only superpower. Pax Britannica lasted for 100 years, but that time has now gone. We're now a small island, and frankly, we shouldn't be thinking about growing or investing, or we should basically stay as we are.
I think that's entirely wrong. I mean, we are the country that invented the Industrial Revolution. No other country had done it in Earth's history, and it's the greatest leap forward that's ever occurred. You know, life expectancy is now ridiculous. I mean, it used to be like about 30 years old. 6 out of 10 children die before they were 15. After the Industrial Revolution, that is not the case, and it's caused a massive reduction in global poverty. We obviously see much less poverty here. There's still poverty, but much less than there was 200 years ago. And that was us. That was this country that did that. And I don't think there's any reason to suspect, in a world of technological growth, where we've got all of these, we've got great universities, we've got great institutions, and we've also got fantastic businesses. There's no reason why we can't invest in those and invest in us and see just how incredible the kinds of things that we will be able to create are.
And I suppose the worry is, if we sort of try and freeze things as they are now in aspic, other countries are advancing. And the Labour Party this morning has been saying that Poland in the next decade is due to become richer than the United Kingdom. 5 years ago, that would have been unimaginable. But I suppose that's now the course that we're on.
And it's easy to see. If you take what's happening with solar farms and you take what's happening with wind farms and you multiply that up at every level, you see how you can't do anything in Britain. It shouldn't take us 11 years to build a wind farm, which is what it does right now. It took 2 years to build the Empire State Building. It's not as difficult for us to build a wind farm as it is for them to build the Empire State Building.